I caught my wife cheating, and I ruined her life. Last year, I cut ties with my ex-wife, Lucy. It was a decision I had to make even though she begged for me to stay. So fast forward, I decided to stay for the time being. Not because I love her, or you might say I'm a doormat. No. I stayed around to make sure my kid was okay, but mainly to watch my soon-to-be ex-wife up close and to keep doing everything I can to make her suffer. I desperately wanted to ruin her life. Here's some background. I'm David, 45 years old. I'm a high school soccer coach and I really love my job. Since I was a kid, I've always had a thing for soccer, and I'm so glad that I'm finally living my dreams. Pain is nothing new to me because I've had my fair share of how unfair life can be. I lost my mom in the cancer at the age of 10, and growing up without her made me feel so empty. Soccer was the only thing that came close to filling up that emptiness, and I met Lucy. I met her when I was 27. She was 24 at the time. We met at McDonald's on my way home from the pitch one evening. I stopped by to get myself a pack of rice and chicken. While I was on the queue, I suddenly noticed a lady who had a straightened resemblance to my mother. I approached her immediately, and we got talking. She sounded really smart and interesting, so we exchanged phone numbers. Soon, we became very close. And our love for each other grew very much. Lucy wasn't my first girlfriend, but everything felt right with her. As of the time we met, she was in college, somewhere in California, studying literature while I was basing in Los Angeles. So, technically, we could only see each other once in a while because of the distance. Whenever she was in town, she'd come to my place. And, of course, after eating and talking, we'd sex each other really hard. My libido had always been on the high side, so we always had to go, like, 4 rounds before I could feel any sort of satisfaction. I always made her moan with tears in her eyes whenever we had sex. And somehow that made me feel like a king. I did all that I could to please her, and her love for me grew stronger as days went by. 3 years later, we got married. I was happy because I thought I made the right choice. I never knew that I was getting myself entangled with a cheap slut. Lucy understands how important my job was to me and how busy it could get sometimes. But even at that, I took it upon myself to always make out time for her whenever the need arose. I remember making some sacrifices for my ex-wife in the past, and I deeply regret it because I never thought that a day would come when she would betray my trust and throw all the love we shared out of the window. One of the sacrifices that still hurts me is choosing her graduation ceremony from college over the final match of the regional high school soccer competition, for which my team qualified. I had to lie to the team that I was sick, and as a result, I will not be available. I did that because I wanted to be with a lady I cherished and loved, not knowing that the witch would someday mess up. Well, my team lost that competition, and my conscience still pricks me to date. We might have had a better outcome if I had been present. Today makes it exactly 2 years since I got divorced from that witch, and it's been the best 2 years of my life so far. Our marriage lasted 13 years before I got to know that she had been cheating on me. I don't know how long she had been doing that, but one thing is certain. Lucy was not loyal, and I was going to ruin her life. Think I was able to achieve that before moving out of the house for good, though, but I must say that the fact that I don't have to worry myself about some witch wife cheating on me again is one of the things that has made the past 2 years of my life even more beautiful. I started suspecting that something wasn't right with my ex-wife the moment she appeared to stop caring about my absence from home. Truth be told, after got married, my job took more and more of my time, and Lucy always complained about it. Although I tried my best to make changes in order to make more time for her and my daughter, Stephanie, it seemed to her like my best was just not good enough. After a while, Lucy began hiding things from me, especially her phone. I acted like I didn't notice the thing, but I saw it. At that point, many thoughts began running through my mind. But I didn't want to believe any of them, so I ignored them all. I trusted her, but she messed up. I never thought I'd catch my ex-wife cheating on me someday. But it happened eventually on our bed. On that fateful day, I got back from work earlier than usual. And I saw my daughter playing with her doll near the entrance. So I asked her where Mom was. She said, "She is upstairs praying with Uncle Damien." I was so shocked because I'd never heard my wife mention that name. I asked Stephanie, "Who's Uncle Damien?" She responded by saying, "He comes here sometimes to pray with Mommy. And whenever they are together, Mommy keeps saying, 'Lord, don't stop. Lord.'" Stephanie was only 5 years old at the time, but she was a very smart and observant kid. I became furious after listening to Stephanie. I knew what all she said meant, so I immediately rushed upstairs. I tried to open the door, but Lucy had already locked it from inside. I stepped back a little and ran towards it over the hard kick, making it jack open. And there she was, lying on the bed naked. She tried to cover herself. A Damien's shirt, but it wasn't big enough. She was so shocked to see me. She was confused, and she began sweating. I looked around the room and saw Damon's Timberland shoes by the bedside, which helped confirm that he was still hiding somewhere in the room. I became so angry and I shouted aloud. My exact words, "Where Damien? Get the F out of my room now, and I'd let you live." He rushed out immediately from my wardrobe with his boxer shorts and ran as fast as he could without trying to look at me in the face. The only question I had for Lucy was, why? I really wanted to know why she did such a wicked thing to me. The next thing that came from the mouth of this freaking whore was sorry. Sorry? Really? You're sorry? I think people need to understand that saying sorry cannot fix every damage, especially when it has to do with breaking people's trust. Is it just me? Does it always seem like there is one person in relationship or marriage who is true and devoted and another who ends up cheating? Why can't all the cheaters find each other rather than hurt their committed partners? So this is what I get for being loyal to you. After all these years, I asked in a very furious manner. She said, "Sorry again." And this time around, I lost it. I almost slapped her, but I controlled myself as soon as I saw my daughter walk into the room. Our sex was good, and she can't even deny that. I gave her lots of money and showered her with much love. The only thing I could not give her in full capacity was my time, but it actually did improve on that. So why this, Lucy? I asked again, and this time, she began to cry. I know I've hurt you, but please stay away me. I need you to try to understand that I feel so horrible at the moment, and I'm so ashamed in myself. She said. I then responded by saying, "Holy, a man who lacks respect will take back or stay with a woman who cheated on him." I left the bedroom immediately and went downstairs to grab my car keys and drove myself to the nearest bar. For the first time in a long time, I drank myself to stupor that night. I still was in disbelief. I've read and heard her about many cheating stories, but I never thought that someday I'd go through the same pain. The more I thought about her, the more hatred I felt towards her. I wanted to hurt her so badly, so I started thinking of different ways to achieve that, especially the ones that would break her completely. I didn't ask her to block the guy from social media or anything afterwards because I clearly did not give an F about the marriage anymore. I had one goal and one goal only: to make her suffer and pay for her betrayal. Fast forward to 3 days later, after several hours of pain and resentment, I became vile and wicked. My conscience died and different ideas of how best I could ruin her life started dropping in my mind. The first thing I did was get to a medical laboratory to check myself for STDs because I was not sure if I had contracted any disease from Lucy. When the results came out, it showed that I was infected with gonorrhea. I was devastated. Then it crossed my mind that it was possible that I wasn't the biological father of Stephanie. So I called Lucy, and I asked her to join me at the hospital. I also added that she should bring Stephanie along. When she arrived, I informed her of my intention to confirm if Stephanie was really my child. She was covered reluctant, she had no choice than to agree, and we carried on with the test. You won't blame me for that. If you were in my shoes, you'd probably would have done the same because of trust, as eventually, the test came out positive and turned out that Stephanie was not truly my daughter, as our genes didn't match. The funny thing is she wasn't Damon's daughter either, which means that Lucy had been cheating for long. I didn't know how to react, so I left the hospital immediately. I left with copies of the test results. I headed straight to my lawyer to get our divorce papers ready. I went with printed copies of all her chats with Damien when I screenshotted from her phone and forwarded to my email a day earlier. It was really essential because I knew there would be a need for me to show proof. I showed my lawyer everything, including the test results. He then informed me that he will begin the divorce process immediately. Shortly after leaving my lawyer's office, I went back home and then just had her to do something crazy to Lucy. I took a cash loan from a loan application using her personal information. I did it without her knowledge. Although it wasn't an easy thing to do, I just had to find a way. I took the loan because I wanted her to run into debt and have her credit score destroyed. I checked her balance first before deciding the amount to borrow. She had $3,000 in her bank account, so I decided to go for a loan of $20,000, knowing fully well that she earns $1,000 a month. A week later, she got a call from the loan company. She couldn't believe her ears. I overheard her saying, "I don't know you people. What loan? That's impossible. I think there's a mix-up somewhere. I didn't take any loan from you." I said I didn't do that. Do you get it? I was so happy to see her in such a terrible position, especially because I was responsible for putting her there. She tried to talk to me about the call from the loan company, but I didn't give her the chance to say a word. I told her to fix her problems just like how she always finds a way to fix her sex drive whenever she wanted. Without me, I was so upset, and I wasn't ready for any conversation with her. She was supposed to pay back the loan in a month. A time frame I chose deliberately because that was how long I planned to stay with her before moving on with my life for good. There's no way she would be able to meet up with that deadline. Soon, calls from the loan company became more frequent, and her frustration drew. By the day, the loan company threatened to keep deducting $800 from her monthly income until she could fully pay the loan, the interest that comes with a delay in payment. While all of this was going on, I was already planning my next move. So the next day, put a call through to her place of work pretending to be a customer. She worked as an editor for a publishing company, and I wanted to get her fired so bad. I planned to file a form of complaint to paint her in a bad light. When I was asked by the HR Human Resources Department what her offense was, I told him that she lied to me about a child that was not mine and concealed it for years, and that she recently got me infected with gonorrhea because of her selfish and disloyal way of life. They were so surprised to hear such reports, although they thanked me and said that they would do their findings too. I forwarded the test results and screenshots to the Hour. And 2 days later, Lucy got fired. I watched myself become a beast. Damn. I never knew that I could become so mean to somebody. Well, Lucy brought out that part of me. That's what you get when you take the ones who love you dearly for granted. She noticed how I kept to myself most of the time without saying anything to her whenever we were together. She wanted that to change, and she kept begging me to forgive her whenever she had the chance to. I stated clearly to her that God forgives, but I don't. Messing with me was a big mistake. You freaking messed with the wrong guy. She kept pleading and didn't listen. At some point, she decided to play the sex card on me. She started wearing some very sexy dresses around the house, thinking that only that would make me drool her. She probably doesn't know me well. He were going to have to ask me for it, which the more my anger grew, the more selfish I became. I wasn't ready to touch her. Except she begged for it, like the chief witch she is. She finally did, and I had sex with her with so much aggression. I put her in every uncomfortable position I could think of, and I ensured that I created an experience that was definitely going to be unforgettable for us, knowing fully well what it would be, my last sex with her. I spanked her several times and choked her severely. While we screwed, I made it clear to her that this was no makeup sex. And then it meant nothing to me. She kept moaning and crying, and I continued giving it to her till I got tired. I left the room afterward and went downstairs to sleep on the couch. I didn't want to sleep next to her. You might think I'm cruel, but to be honest, Lucy brought all these upon herself by deciding to sleep with another man. I wasn't done humiliating her, so I decided to mess her up one last time. 1 week before I left, I gained access to her voicemail. And I did something crazy. She wasn't there with me, so she didn't notice anything. I changed the greeting of her voicemail to something inappropriate. I replaced it with a phone sex operator recording in a bid to ruin her reputation. I went to her contact list and marked all the contacts, especially of the people I knew she cared about a lot. These people include her mom, her sister, Joyce, her brother, Kennedy, her best friend, Tracy, and a few others. I selected the option of sending any calls straight to voicemail to ensure that they got to listen to the strange phone sex operator recording. Here's what you would have heard if you had called her back then. "Hi. It's me. And I've been feeling very naughty, and I'd like you to come play with me. Please return my call. I'm so ready for you, baby. I've been having a lot of nasty thoughts about you. Can't wait to tell you about all the amazing things I want you to do to my body. Just thinking about it, and it's getting to me. Please call me, I'm waiting." By evening, her phone was already blowing up with messages from all her loved ones. There was a prize at what they heard and wanted to confirm if she was truly the person behind. Her world, even as she watched it collapse right before her eyes. She tried to explain to everyone who reached out to her via text messages that she was not responsible for the phone sex recording. She further stated that she was just getting to know about the phone sex recording. Some believed her, but many others did not care to listen because they were highly disappointed in her. She lost some job opportunities because of that phone sex recording. Some of the people that wanted to hire her were shocked to hear such an unprofessional recording, and that made them change their mind. She later found a way to fix the voicemail, but I had already done the damage. When I got back to the house that evening, I saw her crying. I knew what had happened, and I didn't care. I had no sympathy left in me. I lost it all the day I caught her cheating. I walked up to her and served with the divorce papers I got from my lawyer. Initially, she was in denial. Then she got angry and started bargaining. I saw how depressed she looked, and I told her to accept it because I'm no longer the man she married. She tried to speak to me, but words weren't coming out. I told her not to worry about my relationship with my stepdaughter, Stephanie. I'd always be there for her, and I'd occasionally come back to check up on her. I said, I wish I could raise my stepdaughter myself because she was a smart girl. And I wouldn't want Lucy to influence her, but it was impossible to leave with her because she was not up to 18 yet. I left her standing there crying as I went to the bedroom to pack my bags. Stephanie was asleep, so I could not bid her goodbye, but I kissed her on the forehead before I finally left the house. I walked away feeling great. You may call me wicked, but I think you may have to first go through what I went through before you judge me. I feel no remorse for what I did because she deserved it. Revenge, they say, is a dish best served cold? I guess I served her well. I do check up on Stephanie occasionally as promised, and I'm really happy about the fact that she is growing fine. I know you might be thinking I spent the loan. Well, I didn't. Shortly before I quit my job as a soccer coach, I got introduced to trading Forex, and I made a lot of money from it within a short time frame. So I'm not broke. All I did was keep the money away to make her suffer. Lucy had to work 2 jobs after I left to be able to pay up for her loan. Anyways, I recently sent her money back to her bank account some days back, and I did that transfer via a channel she doesn't recognize because I never wanted her to know that I was the cause of her misery all along. Well, I moved on now, and I hope she does too. The last time I went to see my daughter, I saw how empty she looked. She didn't appear to me like someone who moved on. She looked like someone that was drowning in guilt. Her eyes were teary, but that's none of my business. Stepdaughter is the only reason we still talk. I really can't wait for Stephanie to turn 18 so that I can have custody of her, and that would also help me stop seeing Lucy forever. Anyways, Lucy still reminds me of my mom every time I see her, but not in a good way this time around. Seeing her now infuriates me a lot. The life must go on. I'm happier now, and I don't in any way regret my actions. Let's check into some reactions on this story. The first one. Wow! Lucy made the op go crazy. Dang. Look at how he went from being a nice guy to a psychopath. I was shocked. EOP needed therapy. The heartbreak affected his mind. The next response deep down? I think the op will get back with Lucy because he still loves her. The fact that he returned the money he took from the loan company to her says a lot about how much he cares. He's just still hurt. That's why he's behaving this way. The next response. Now this is why I always tell people around me not to break the trust of loved ones. You'd be so amazed at the level of damage that could cause you. If Lucy could not continue with the marriage, she could have broken things off with David in a mature way instead of screwing another guy behind his back. Well, she got served, and I don't blame David for any of his actions. And our final response, I think the op went too far. He freaking ruined her life. I may not be in the best position to judge, but wow. He dealt with her. I hope his stepdaughter, Stephanie, turns out well, because no one is perfect. Marriages aren't that blissful anymore.